Yeah, usually we're sort of fairly correct on how we pick these. So this time it's
Mm.
quite interesting. Anyway, with that, let's do a podcast for the first time in 2026. Hello and welcome back to the Undercut podcast. We're back ahead of a brand new season of Formula One, and to ease you into the new year and a new era of racing, we're kicking off with something quite light-hearted. It is the first day of testing in Bahrain today, when we record this at least, and obviously we're not going to read into that at all, mostly because it's not being broadcast, which is odd. I think the inside track I've managed to get hold of is the fact they're also using this as a chance to test new broadcasting patterns. We've got upscaled onboard cameras. They're just checking that all of that actually works before they go live. So it might go live through the second and third day. We do have a second set of tests in Bahrain anyway before we all head off to Australia. But that is by the by. We're here to talk about something nice and light-hearted. Shapes and colours, the 2026 Formula One liveries for all 11 teams on the grid. I'm your host, Jesse Billington, and joining me once again is none other than award-winning journalist, Mr. Thiemo Albers Daly. How are you?
You added that bit in, didn't you? Because I don't remember writing that earlier.
I was being nice. You picked up
No,
your
fair
award.
enough. I was
It
just
picked
checking
up
I
your award
hadn't
last year, wasn't
like
it? Yeah.
subliminally written that down and I've turned into that person. So now I'm glad that was you and not me. I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing very well. It's yeah, already lining up to be a busy 2026. A friend asked when I was available to come around and do some work on one of our project cars. And between now and the end of June, I was able to give him 4 weekends. That's it. So,
Sport more than I was expecting in some regards. I was half expecting the response to be, let me get back to you. And
mm,
then you get back to him 6 months from now going, are you still needing to do this?
yes, yeah, it's my car that needs the work. Actually, we're looking to overhaul the front suspension on my MG, just to try and sort of pep
Some
it up.
things never change.
The car works, drives fine. I just want to make it a bit more dynamic. Let's say we're sort of looking to
Mm.
improve the way that it corners, because now that it goes very nicely in the straights, we're looking to improve its X mode, Z mode, Y mode. I've forgotten what the modes are. Or is it? No, because we
Corners.
changed it to manual override, isn't it? Now that's what it's called. But
I've
anyway,
lost track of what you've done to your car at this point. It might as well just be a completely different one from the one it started out as.
no,
You've
no, no.
probably replaced more or
It's
less
not too
everything there.
it's not too much of a ship of Theseus. It's back to its original engine, so it's up and running and driving quite nicely. But anyway, that's by the by. We're already getting off on a tangent. We're here to talk about liveries, paint schemes, and colours on the 2026 Formula One cars. And of course, there are now 11 teams to work our way through. Very exciting. So we'll start in 11th place. And importantly, we've got some guest contributions. Thiemo, what have the people said?
Well, Leslie has put Ferrari in bottom place, but she is willing to forgive them if they have a quick car. So it's a bit of apples and oranges on that one. We've got Fraser, friend of the podcast. He's put Williams in bottom. And then we've got a few interesting ones, a lot of diversity that is going to be present throughout this list, not just between us, but between everyone who contributed to their guest contributions here. But Cheryl going for Alpine at bottom. So bit of a mixture. I think the only commonality, somewhat not surprisingly, is Ferrari,
Oh, so
which differs from both of us.
yeah.
What have you put down there? Because you've put a card down that none of the people that responded to my question of rankings have put in bottom. So we're starting off controversially, which is a good sign because we agreed far too much last year.
Yeah, previously on this, we've always been sort of very cordial and very in agreement on sort of how good a lot of these cars look. I've gone in strong with 11th place Mercedes. I
Why?
Okay, right. I have a very strong theory about this. Let me scroll down to my picture of it just so I can sort of give it my full sort of attention. I think it looks like if you asked AI to make a Chav Formula One livery, it just smacks of sort of Sports Direct tracksuits and sort of crushed grey velvet upholstered sofas and live laugh love signs. It just doesn't vibe with me. I I
You can
just
see
don't
the
like it.
tracksuit-esque nature of it. I can give you that. But that's pretty much all I can agree with you on. The rest of it, it just doesn't scream that at all to me.
I just think it looks a bit flat, and the fact that it's all sort of monochrome, it's black and grey. It's not particularly, or I suppose no, we've got if we're going to be accurate, I think the grey is supposed to be like Petronas Seafoam, but no, it's grey. Let's be real. it
We're not going
just
to start
looks.
saying made up colours. We're going to go with what they're actually called.
Also, we've got me on this to do this. I'm colorblind, so we're sort of already at a bit of a disadvantage here.
I
But
do forget that and get reminded of that about this time every year and go, oh, yes, I should probably take everything you're about to say with a pinch of salt because you can't see them
yes,
properly.
yes, salt by way, which is white. I know that. But no, it's I don't know, just the livery just looks uninspired to me. It's and I'm going to get to this with a couple of other cars. It's very much like last year's. There was no thought process put into it. It's just unimaginative.
That is what I will say about a lot of the cars on this list is that they have done exactly what they did last year, but some of them have regressed. This is not one of them for me, but others have evolved a bit, which we'll get to. But I think this is somewhat, it's not regressed and it's not evolved a lot, but it has changed enough to be a bit more dynamic. And I've been mean enough to put it in last place. Um, but yeah, like I said, I'll take you also with a pinch of salt because maybe you'll come to appreciate it more. I don't know if you have you seen any of the footage from testing so far today,
I've seen a
just
few
in case, because sometimes that
clips.
changes opinions on
Yeah, seeing
when
it
you
in
see the car in
motion
motion.
under daylight, yeah, the sort of actually sort of in the metal style looks a bit different to still imagery and the renders. I don't it still hasn't sold it for me. I just think it looks a bit yeah, I don't like it. The weird stripes on the side pod, I don't get. They look like someone sort of repurposed like a sports training shoe. It looks like you should be able to like Slav squat
I
on
do
the
worry
side
that I'm not going to
pods.
be able to
And
unsee that now that you've mentioned that, because that is somewhat accurate,
yeah,
but I
it,
still don't think it's going to topple down the order on my list. I think even if it does, he's just scrolling down to have a look, I think it's still safe enough to be worst place seventh had I put it there. I still think the ones I've got between it and last place will stay where they are as the season goes on. So a small crumb of solace for Mercedes, for you and for me on that one.
yeah, it's not fundamentally a bad livery. It does the job of a livery. Just to my eye, it feels very uninspired.
That's the
And
job of delivery. It's paint on a car. Is
yeah,
that basically what you were saying?
and just for me, the joke I have is possibly one that harks back to a very early internet meme of the Slav squat and the idea of where you've got the stripes on the side of an Adidas tracksuit. Like you could Slav squat on the side pod of this car, and like the stripe of the Adidas tracksuit as it runs down your shin would blend perfectly into those side stripes. And I can't see past that,
Maybe that's how they
unfortunately.
created it. You don't know that for definite.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe at some point this year we'll get a great photograph of Kimmy or George sort of properly sort of triangled fingers, Slav squatting on the side in well, are they sponsored by Adidas? What's their sports like branding sponsor clothes branding sponsorship? I feel like it
You're
might
asking
actually
the
be.
wrong person, but it could be Adidas. I think Audi might have them, but I forget. It all looks the same to me anyway. It's all branding.
It is Adidas. It is.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Okay, I might be able to forgive it a bit if this is clever Adidas branding down the side. But
I
my,
also
my
think
point
that
rest.
your idea of that happening would be a very Miami thing to happen. So if it's going to
Yeah.
happen anywhere, Miami is my prediction
Or
for that.
that, or all of a sudden we'd have like the Bratislava Grand Prix and we get them doing it
Or
there.
just shoehorned in if Madrid isn't ready quite in
Yeah,
time. Just go
Madrid
to
isn't ready,
Bratislava for a street circuit.
but yeah, the Bratislav government have sort of slid enough, whatever the currency is there, I can't remember off the top of my head, local currency towards Formula One and gone, we'll give you an Azerbaijan style street circuit, and they might go. "Hmm." But
It
anyway,
would appeal to me.
before I horrendously insult Bratislava, which I
I don't
horrendously
think you
can't
were
pronounce.
just yet. You're on the borderline of it, but I think you got away with it
Slovakia,
because you
that's
wanted
it.
them to host a Grand Prix. So,
Yeah,
you know,
before I
I think you
horrendously insult the Slovaks about their country and possible dress sense, we'll move on to 10th place. Oh no, actually, you haven't given us your 11th yet. Sorry, I'm racing
going
ahead
to
to
say,
my
can we get
10th.
past the first car before we start skipping ahead?
Yeah,
Uh, Aston Martin in 11th place for me. It it's what the seventh year that they've been in the sport now, and they
yeah,
still haven't got Jaguar Racing Green correct, and it frustrates me because it's the only shade of green that works, and they dance around it, they get close. They just don't quite manage it, and then seeing it in the flesh, as it were, today, and then seeing it under the lights as well. I don't know how else to describe it other than naked. It looks like a naked car with that just happens to be green.
yeah.
If that
The
comes
image
across.
I've
It
got in
doesn't look
front of
like it's
me.
been padded out as the other ones have. I mean, you have other minimalist liveries,
Hmm.
but they don't look bare. This
Mhm.
just looks like all the parts came in green.
Yeah, the image I've got in front of me, there's a lot of space on that engine cover for sponsorship, let's say. I don't know if they don't need the money at the moment, if they haven't been able to secure that money. And also, the one thing that really annoys me, so they've got who's the sponsorship that's got the lovely yellow streak to it? I think it's Hugo Boss at the moment, is their sort of color branding. And like there's been sort of bits and pieces launched and showcasing that brand with this lovely sort of vibrant color to it, and we've got this thin sliver of it sort of acting as a belt line between a very flat, almost grey green color and the black of like the underside of the car. And you're right, it's not the British racing green that it should be. It should be a darker, richer, more sort of emerald color, and it just isn't. So yeah, I do agree with you on putting this one lower, but I had other teams that I disliked more. Aston Martin, spoiler alert, doesn't rank highly for me either.
No, perhaps unsurprisingly, we did discuss a little bit before recording. After a certain point on this list, it does get quite tricky, and we seem a lot meaner about the rankings than we would usually
Mm.
like to be. But
Yeah,
we'll get
bottom
to that in due
four,
course.
relatively straightforward. Top seven, trickier.
Hmm. The good ones are great. The bad
Mm.
ones are bad, but then the gulf between those is
Yeah.
quite big.
Anyway, with your 11th place out of the way, we can now move to 10th place. We'll go back to the guest contributions. What have people been picking for about 10th? Not the worst, but certainly it could do better.
You're not going to be happy with a few of these because a couple of people came out, such as Caitlin, saying Racing Bulls did not do well at all. Martin, friend of the podcast, Cadillac in P10, which I thought was very bold of him to go for. And we do have a couple of Audis as well, which seems to be a bit of a decisive choice in 10th. People either seem to really like that or really loathe it. But what about yourself? Who have you put in P10? Again, very different to where I've placed them.
Yeah, so my 10th place is Alpine. Um, Again, for
Okay,
me,
why?
it falls into the trap of the Mercedes thing of you've just done the same thing again. Um, and
But
I
their
think,
livery last year was excellent, so if anyone was to do the same thing as last year and get away with it, surely it would be Alpine.
yeah, and it's got a bit more pink on it. Maybe I have judged them too harshly, but like I said, this year seems to be a bit of a tricky one to pick from, and someone had to come
Hmm.
10th, and unfortunately, it was sort of Alpine. Um, I think it looks a really interesting car from the renders. I like the way they've used the shark fin in a very dark tone, so it almost disappears. Certainly in the press shots that were actually taken by a friend of mine at Bicester Heritage, just down the road from me. Um, so it really sort of snakes and tails off the back of that car. They've got a really unique looking rear wing. We've seen footage of it on sort of action at Bahrain so far. It actuates very differently to everyone else, and the use of the pink on there is a bit more vibrant this year. It just brings something different. Otherwise, we are going to see pretty much a field that is mostly black and grey cars, a load of blue cars, a red one, an orange one, and then we've gone, okay, well, at least we've got like a mostly pink one. So I've got this is the first one we get to where I've at least got something positive to add to it. But otherwise, I feel they could have been a bit more inventive.
Quite like them because it was the only thing I could get behind of the team last year for the majority. And so I'm glad that they at least got that aspect of it right again this year. It remains to be seen how much of anything else they got correct as a team, but I like that whoever's in charge of the livery didn't tweak it too much. Like I say, it's a bit more pink, but it looks matty, more matte than
Mm.
before. And I don't dislike that. And I think however much of it we see, we won't mind seeing it too much because at least it's relatively easy on the eye, which is more than I can say for the Williams, which I've put in P10.
Oh,
We are going to disagree a bit here, but too many different blues. The Barclays light blue doesn't work. If they'd gone for that Barclays light blue all over, much like the Golf livery from yesteryear, then we can have a conversation. But, and I thought emotionally, the awkward thing was it looked better in motion, still not better than the people I'd put in ninth and eighth place, so I couldn't even skip it ahead a bit. It was still just second worst for me. And just too many blues.
I like the color blue though, so I feel like I'm sort of a bit biased in my choice where
I
I put
like the
red
colour blue too,
Williams.
but
Yeah,
pick one and stay in that
I
lane.
like it.
Like Alpine, it's not six different shades of blue and then the pink.
And equally, at the same time as someone looking to get a mortgage, I'm going to say nice things about Barclays as well, because I don't want to try and prejudice anything as I go to make one of the most sort of incredible financial decisions of my life. But anyway, I will get to my views on Williams in
A
soon-ish.
bit
Quite a bit. Where the hell did I put Williams? Oh, wow, I put them all the way up there.
suspiciously high up to make me think that you really want Barclays held.
Hey, look, I bank with them at the moment. They have my money. I'm not going to say anything controversial. Um, I think that rounds out 10th. I think the sort of blue off of 10th, I think, is a good place to start moving into ninth, where again we get some interesting picks from us, but we'll go to the guests first.
Got a couple of people putting McLaren in at this point. We've got Aston Martin making an appearance. We've got Ferrari. We've got Racing Bulls. We've got Cadillac. It's a real mixing pot here. So I think we're in that bit where people are trying to, I think, much like us, people know what they liked, but then they were sort of left at the bottom of the list going, what do we put here? And it's all kind of gotten a bit topsy turvy. So I agree with them though. But what about you? Because you say all this about Alpine, and it sounded like you quite liked the livery, and then you went and put them below this team.
Yeah, well,
Explain
last
yourself.
year I liked Aston Martin more than I liked Alpine, and Aston Martin have largely done the same as what they did last year, much like Alpine did. So it's sort of the same thing, but just sort of
Right.
refracted either up or down compared to where I would have ranked them last year. I think it's quite a smart looking livery. And again, a bit like you, I do think it does look a bit naked in places, but I do like the clean aesthetic. If we wind the clock back 2009 Brawn, that brilliant sort of just plain white car that rolled out of the garage sort of early on in the
Mm.
season, there is something nice about a very neutral car. And again, I think the sort of I'm going to go on a limb and guess that it's that yellow streak. It might be sort of a very acid green color, but correct me if I'm wrong. I
It
think
looks more yellow.
it looks yellow. In which case, it's very on brand considering who they've now got as a brand ambassador. They've stolen Jenson Button from Williams. Button, iconic for his tenure at Brawn. That lovely sort of very minimalist car with that yellow streak down the side. Obviously, it's tied to brands they've got attached to the car. I think it's just a nice sort of crossover hybrid moment. But there's a lot I like about it. I think it's tidy, but possibly too tidy. So again, we're in that
I
zone
would
where I
say
can now start
slightly
saying
uninspired.
yeah, where I can now start saying nice things, but I think overall, I think it's still a case of we could have done a bit more here. Let's be frank.
Don't think about the nice things to say part just yet, but I'm glad at least one of us is.
We've gotten nice early. So if you've not got anything nice to say, who are you not saying anything nice about?
McLaren, because again, I feel like yes, they have gone similar to what they did last year, but they've gone with the wrong color that they should have put more of it on. They've added too much black. If they'd just gone more orange, which you wouldn't have thought was possible, but there's always a way, that would have worked really well. But I think the black bit on the back of the car just looks like it's just way more's been spilt on it than was intended, and they've gone, oh bugger, it's dried now. We're going to have to keep it there, and we've run out of orange paint in ordering them. And it's nice, but everything else above it in the list for me is just better. And I think it's there was nothing wrong with like the last year or two's McLarens, I want to say, with how they did. It's still better than some of their one-off liveries that they've done in recent times, but that bar is particularly low. So yeah, I think the highest I can put it is ninth, unfortunately for them.
I think this is I think our closest one where we've almost agreed because spoiler alert for in about sort of maybe 180 seconds time my voting for McLaren is relatively close to this point, but I understand what you're saying. I think there should be more orange, really lean into it, but at the same time, I think that black stripe works. Um, I think they should have carried the orange into the halo though.
It seems less of a stripe though. It seems more of a
Sort of swage. I don't
brush.
know. Yeah. I don't like the way that it clashes with the almost black, very dark grey of the Allwyn sponsorship on the top of the airbox. I that to me, it's like when you haven't matched your blacks properly as a goth and you look a bit sort of haphazard, which is
You've got more experience with that than mine.
I appreciate a bit of a strange sort of anecdote or sort of facsimile to make, but it's yeah, it's just one of those things where you've got too many different blacks or dark greys going on, and as a result, it looks badly coordinated. So I think what it does do actually is leads nicely into my thoughts for ninth place, eighth place. No, sorry, where have we got to?
Yeah,
Eighth
we're on
place.
eighth.
which is McLaren. Yeah, I think again, it's good. It's a tidy livery. I like the fact that we've got a big, bright, bold color on there, one that stands out, especially when we're racing. It's a really fun color, but I just
You're
don't
not going to lose it. And I
know.
think the F1 Academy cars, if you've seen those on top of it, and the race suits, they are all incredibly bright orange, the kind that would blind you if you're not careful. And I think, why do they not do that with the car?
Yeah,
It seems like that's you got 90% of the way, and then you got to the main event and added the black.
yeah, and then just sort of forgot to finish it off. It's a bit of yeah, it's a bit of an afterthought. Like I don't know why we've got sort of only a little bit of orange on the front wing end plates when we could have those in all orange. I agree, and why we've then put the McLaren um sort of fast Kiwi swish onto the side of the barge boards. I think if we'd left them black, it would really trim down the shape of the car. It doesn't bring to mind that there's something there. But instead of we've got something on it and you're sort of drawn to it. But at the same time, I can really easily see how that's transferred into a sticker for the Lego format of the car. But it's
I was just thinking future design idea, have kiwi bird on either side of the nose, and the beak is just slowly creeping along as it gets thinner and thinner towards the front.
it's sort of like the snakes on the old Jordans, the old Benson and Hedges one,
Yes,
where it used to have like sort of the viper. I think you could have the kiwi bird sort of beak tailing off through the nose. The McLaren this year does have a
that
very
would be a pain on stickers for Lego as well, but you'd have such fun getting that right.
yeah, once you got it right, and then obviously put the wishbones through it, it would be look really good. But also, McLaren have a very droopy looking nose on their car this year. I don't know if it's the angle or the renders, but their nose seems to sort of possibly due to the painting and the design they've used, but it looks like it really sort of strongly curves down. And I think that would be great fun to put a kiwi into it or sort of have some sort of kiwi motif there. But instead, they've got the fast
The
kiwis.
bird, not the nationality of the person that you'd like to plonk in the car instead, just to be clear.
Yeah, the yeah. Well, obviously the bird because Bruce McLaren was himself Kiwi, but that's the reason behind it. It's I don't know. It's just a design that I'm like it was so almost a good one, but for me it just falls short of being in that good bracket. So
It's
there.
quite amusing how which teams you let get away with just doing the same as last year, which ones you don't let get away with it, and it's such a fine margin between what is acceptable and what's not.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a very thin gap. But anyway, we sort of steamrolled into my pick for eighth because it sort of segued from yours for ninth. What have the guests put in eighth place?
Well, Paddock Chronicle Sabrina's gone for Alpine, so a bit higher up than yours. Sports Illustrated Caitlin's gone for Aston Martin, so still not terribly high in the grand scheme of things. And then close your ears, Henry. Jenny, who inside F2's put Haas down in eighth, which I thought was quite harsh, but he doesn't like it, so that's where that's going. But there are a few people who agree with me: Cheryl, Martin, Chiara. Yeah, they kind of all agree with me, and have gone with Ferrari for eighth place. I suspect for similar reason, which is too much white.
I
It's the opposite problem to McLaren in terms of black or white, neither, too much of both. It's I feel like if they'd gone with the white elements that they had last year, which I think was the rear wing and then the front wing a bit, it was reminiscent of Schumacher in the early 2000s. Or if they'd gone down the route of their tribute livery in Monza last year for 74, I want to say. Um,
76 or no, 75 it would have been for Lauda.
75. Yes, that's the one. Then it would have worked, but it's just there's too much HP white on there, and Ferrari, you're just meant to be red. Be red.
I
And blue doesn't quite work either.
again at risk of giving away my sixth place, jumping ahead a fair way. I quite like the white on there. We'll get to that though. I because again I like my historic stuff. I like my old stuff.
I like the historic stuff as well, but I just, you know, minimal.
Could have been
You
executed
can have
better.
nods to it in the same way that Mercedes keep having Nicky's red star on there. You can do these little bits and pieces, but you don't need to get a giant brush if you're McLaren and just put this giant black bit over it for no apparent reason. The black is also gone. Well, we're going back to McLaren for a second. The black is curious as a colour choice because I'm not sure who that's meant to relate to if we're going for the story of McLaren. They've
Hmm.
never really had a black car. If it was silver, I could see
Um,
that weird chrome sort of thing that didn't work either, but at least I'd understand it. You're
Well,
going to try and hopefully make a point of something.
Well, the black they did this for a special livery. I think it was last year, celebrating a Formula One championship win in '95. Where they essentially they had like a sort of a clean sweep across the board. The black represents the black McLaren F1 LM that won at Le Mans in I think 1995 or something. I think
But
that's
not an F1 car.
not an F1 car, but an F1. Interestingly enough, but it's I think that's what the black is supposed to be there for, and equally it offers a high contrast for McLaren to put sponsorship on top of. So things like the Gemini labeling and the OKX bits and the Mastercard. I think their liveries sort of their sponsorship branding has to go on a darker background, the same as Allwyn, the same as Jack Daniels, the same as Arrow. It has to, because of the nature of that branding, has to be on a dark background. So that's possibly why there's the black stripe to it. With Ferrari, I'll get to the white and my thoughts on it and the HP livery. But anyway, that's eighth out of the way, I believe. We'll move then into seventh and we'll go back to the guest.
Well, we've got again a mixed bag, as you can probably guess at this point. Haas makes a couple of appearances, Racing Bulls makes a couple of appearances, and Red Bull makes an appearance, as does Audi. Caitlin from Paddock Chronicle putting that there, and who is it? Henry Haschap. Not a big fan of the Audi, put it all the way down to seventh. So it's also both different from what we've put there, I think. But yeah, I'm agreeing with a few people actually, but we'll let you go first because you have some justification to do here.
Well, this is the thing. We've got to where it's seven, so we've got to the top seven, which is the
Hmm,
ones that I said I was struggling to really pick apart. And I feel like
which is fine if you get the top three, but we're on seven.
yeah, there's a lot of designs this season that I really like the look of, and one of those is the Haas. But I there's something about it with that just doesn't sit right with me, and it's this weird black square that sits ahead of the rear wheels. There should be a continuation of the white and red striping that goes down that bit underneath sort of the engine cover, and for some reason they've got a black bit and three tiny sponsorship decals on it. It looks like it's on this render at least Castoria, Alpenstar, and someone else. I'm like, it's so small, no one's going to see it there. So why have we done this in the first place? And I get that we need to have a
And
black
yet
square
you're
there.
talking about it, so it works perfectly.
Yeah, I've mentioned at least two of them because I could figure out what they were, but I don't know. It's a good livery, but it strikes me as sort of an homage to the basic livery you get in a nondescript racing game when you unlock a single seater car. And it's nice. I like that we've got a lot of white on there. It's going to be bright. It's going to stand out. The pops of red on there, the GR badging on the engine cover is great. I love it. We've still got the Haas on there in sort of big writing on both the side pods and the wing. It's good. We've got the American flag on the nose. We've got that little bit, but it just lacks something for me.
Do you find it quite karmaful that my choice is one that you've placed quite highly, as your choice has been one that I've placed quite highly? So there is something quite nice about being able to put Racing Bulls in seventh place for myself, because this is a team where I like the livery also, but and this was originally lower down the pecking order before I saw it in motion. I liked it better in motion, um, but I still think it's on par with Alpine as the least different from last year. And last year's was handsome once it got going, but it's not done enough for me to get anywhere near the top end of the field, which is why I'll be curious as to hear where you placed it later and why. But yes, seventh is the highest I can put that. It's pretty, but it doesn't really do much else aside from that.
So we're now into your positive section. So much the same as me. We're in the sort
Yeah,
of I quite enjoy this
yeah,
section,
yeah.
which further into the I quite enjoy this section is sixth place. What have the guests said?
Well, unfortunately for the guests, I don't know if they liked the cars. I can only assume that the higher up the list we get,
At
there's
this
some
point, they
degree of
probably do.
likability,
Yeah.
um, and it hopefully gets a little bit tricky. We've got Aston Martin in sixth from a couple of people, which is surprisingly high. Not the highest you will see it on this list, but we'll get to that later. Yes, really. Um, Jenny's put Racing Bulls up in sixth. Henry's put Williams here. We've got a bit of Alpine, and we've got a couple of Mercedes as well. So we've got a little bit of everything, which segues into my thing. Because as I've said, Mercedes, I've put Mercedes sixth, despite your Slavic insinuations and all the rest of it. I quite liked it. I think they're in this interesting period with their liveries where they can't go back to being full silver. So they tried that in 22, and no one wants to talk about that car. And they can't go all black because it wouldn't feel right without Lewis being there, I don't think. It just, there was, regardless of the reasoning behind it, I think just him in that car in 20 and 21 in particular, just there was something you wouldn't want to do that with another driver. It wouldn't fit right. And now they're in this in between thing of do how much kind of teal blue do we add, if any. We've got the black, the grey, the white. We've got to find a mixture in there. And what they've come up with is them. I think it's a good representation of Russell and Antonelli still because it's still them figuring out what this new team looks like without Lewis. It was their first year without him last year, and it seems like a bit of an evolution of that, and it works regardless of any tracksuit connotations you've attached to it.
I'll allow what you've said. I don't necessarily agree with it, though. I think this is possibly the most
That's all
wrong.
right.
This, in my opinion, is the one that you're most wrong on. Everything else, I can understand why you've done it. This one leaves me baffled.
Well, you'll be glad to know that your choice isn't the biggest mistake you've made on this list. We'll get to that later.
Oh. Well, my choice is Ferrari, the SF26. I think it looks quite good. Again, we're only in what, sixth place. There are
Colourblind.
obviously better ones, but I think the white and red looks really nice. I still have a grudge to pick with that HP sticker. That's two of them slapped on the rear wing, one on the prominently on the engine cover, and two again on the front wings. HP's website, we found this last year when they joined the team somewhere around halfway through, does have a monochrome set of sort of licensed branding imagery that could be used here. And I don't know why they've gone for it in the blue or why they've stipulated it in the blue. It just clashes a bit too much against the red and the white. It's a slightly lighter red than we've seen before as well. It's still very much sort of like Scuderia Rosso, but it certainly in this render across the top of the engine sort of cowl and the side pods looks a little bit sort of lighter and brighter and fresher, which is quite interesting. But I like this sort of nostalgic look back to the 80s sort of racing bathtubs and the sort of late 70s look. I think it's quite interesting. And yeah, I think the all
With
black
Alessia
front.
from earlier, if it goes quickly, I will forgive it.
Mm,
But I don't like the 80s references if it goes only as quick and as reliable as the cars from the 80s.
yeah, this is very
So that's where I'm going to draw the line for now. It's sort of, if you do well, I'll say nothing more.
yeah.
But you are also Ferrari.
I think the black that's applied to it works very nicely because it's quite slimming in place as well. The sort of the trim front wing, the fact that the black starts quite high up the waistline along the nose section as well. So it really sort of trims that out and sort of takes a lot of the weight out of it. And it hides a lot of the barge boards, the floor, and sort of it follows a natural curve around the back of the side pods as it sort of tapers off into the tail of the engine cover, unlike the Haas, which is just a bit etch a sketch in its sort of very blocky straight lines. So
But
there's
harshness, unnecessary harshness.
yeah, there's a lot to it that I like in this, and I think sort of the double stripe on the edge of the transition between the white and the red is quite nice. It's sort of a delicate and artisanal touch that I quite like. But yeah, for me, it's not the best Ferrari livery we've ever seen. Hence the reason why it does come.
Well, on that we can agree.
So I think
It is definitely not the best Ferrari livery.
we can agree on that, and we can agree on where we get to with fifth. But we'll get to that in a
We
second. Guest
can.
contribution. Are there any guests that also agree with us on fifth?
We have one guest that agrees with us, and that is Fraser Ford from Inside F2. So good company, but he does sort of undo himself later. We'll get to that. We have Cadillac in fifth. We've got three people. We've got Martin, Chiara, Caitlin putting Williams in fifth. We've got Jacob from the podcast putting Haas in fifth. Um, Caitlin from Sports Illustrated as well. Different Caitlin to differentiate, put Haas there as well. And then Henry Haschchap himself put Ferrari in fifth. So he's smoking whatever you're smoking, but I don't think that's necessarily the compliment either you want that to be.
Mm. Well, yeah, ignoring comments about sort of substances, I think I've gone for Red Bull in fifth, and I like the Red Bull livery we've got this year. Red Bull is always the one we go to and go, oh my God, you've just done the same thing as the year before. And by and large, they have this year, but we've sort of got a texturing to the blue bits. It's marbled. It's sort of like they've done hydro dipping to it, and it
One of
adds
the
something
comments
to
I
it.
got is that it looks more Vettel-esque Red Bull.
Yes, yeah,
They've gone back through there. We've done everything exactly the same for the last umpteen years, but there's subtle differences, and it's gone slightly darker, slightly shinier. And this is one of the cars where, because spoilers, I have also put this in fifth place as Fraser, where on paper I thought probably not too inspiring. Then I saw it on the track and thought, you know what? It worked both in the natural sunshine and then under the lights in on the circuit in Bahrain, and it prompted a quick move up the rankings. And yeah, like you say, it's just got this sort of fresh retro vibe to it, doesn't it?
It just looks a bit more special. And the retro vibe is something I'll get to with one of my other highly placed cars, actually. But I like this sort of nostalgia for the sort of late noughties, I'm guessing, sort of 2008.
Well, yeah, in its not too long history, but long enough that they can have a callback to it. And I think it's interesting to have that car that reminds you of those days being driven by someone like Verstappen, who had, the most race wins last year and the most laps led in a year that he describes as his best in F1, where he doesn't win the title.
Mm,
So to have that interesting combination goes, we've got an interesting merging of history at the start of a new era with first kind of brand new season with this revamped team where pretty much everyone bar Verstappen that was a big figure is gone at this point, I'm pretty sure. So it's very interesting to see how that's all melded together. And as a story point, is is potentially a good jumping off point into 2026.
yeah, the colors fade well. It looks like we have that sort of blue almost sort of fades out into the black that lines the underside of the side pods. It looks like it sort of almost fades into sort of a darker blue, very sort of dark blue, almost black again when it goes into the halo. So it's colors that are blended and put together with care and thought. I like it. It's a nice piece of design. Interestingly, a bit quieter on the sponsor front this year, but Red Bull often
Which I'm
is
not
because
against.
I'm not against that, but also Red Bull often is because it's its own sponsor. It is Red Bull, so it's sort of one of those things that
And
sort
it's
of
also
like
sort of what
balance
we
out.
want from liveries and teams because we think you don't want to go overboard like McLaren did last year or the year before, where you couldn't see the car for the sponsor.
Yeah, it
And it
was.
changed pretty much from race to race because they were just going and hoovering up all these
Yeah,
different sponsors
who
all
was
over the place. I
sponsoring
think
this
they've
race
still got
before?
about 50 this year anyway, which is mad. But
It's sort of the opposite
sometimes that,
problem. Was it Caterham or one of the Lotus spun off teams had where they had to crowdfund getting to the final race of a season? It's sort of
yes,
the inverse problem
yes.
to that. But with fifth place out of the way, we're getting into a very tricky bit to pick apart, and this is fourth. You and I have both gone for teams beginning with the letter A, but what have the guests picked?
A few of the guests have agreed with me. One of them didn't, but also chose the letter A, and that was Martin going for Aston Martin. Coincidence with the name? Don't know. I'm going to assume so. We've got Ferrari up in fourth, interestingly. We've got a few Red Bulls and a few Racing Bulls, and then McLaren is up in fourth, which he says, having a quick look ahead, is the highest it is on anyone's list. His fourth place is McLaren this year, and that's by, admittedly, self-confessed McLaren mega fan Cheryl. So if she was, if even she's only putting it up in P4, which shows how close everything is this season.
Hmm. Yeah, tricky one to unpick. For me though, I've gone for new boys-ish Audi. I think this is a really nice livery. It's very clean. It's very sort of
It's the minimalist we were just talking about.
yeah, it's German business suit in a livery, but then there's that sort of very bright sash to it at the back that
It's almost the opposite of McLaren.
yeah, it's what McLaren should do if they wanted to go for like a heritage livery to sort of go back to the Vodafone Silver. It's nice. And I think it's really smartly done. I think the highlight colors could be a bit darker. They could be more Audi red, but I think the sort of very vibrant orange does help it pop a bit, and it works. It
It
just
has that retro feel
works.
to it a little bit as well, and I think the red you're talking about could be something that they visit in future years, and they want because you could have that evolution of that black stripe and keep the rest of it the same, and just the stripe changes over the years, so at least you know immediately that's an Audi, and you know what year it is because in that year they did orange, that year they did yellow, that year they did red.
Yeah,
That would be quite a smart, clever marketing move to go for, and also then you can align that with, say, they take a sponsor from Aston Martin. Okay, yellow stripe. Immediately, you know
yeah.
what's what.
And equally, you've got certainly in the silver and the black, you've got two areas that are defined very neutral colors, very easy to apply your sort of sponsorship liveries and stickers and branding to. And then you've got that bright pop that goes with it. And equally from the back, it really sort of sleeks away. Certainly in the renders they've sort of shared, the digital renders, it's on a very dark background. So sort of trying to tell what's going on around that back point. Obviously, this was just a render on the standard FIA model car. We don't obviously know any of the aerodynamics based off of this image, but it really helps sort of taper the car and makes it look a lot smaller and makes it very skinny looking. And obviously that's what we're aiming for with this generation of cars. I think it's just a really interesting piece of design. I like the way that we've got that sort of swathe of bright orange lining the inside of the airbox and the inside of the sort of side pods. Although you will have noticed that while in Spain they ran the rather standard looking horizontal side pods, they have for the first day in
Changed.
Bahrain changed to the very small narrow vertical side pods. So yeah,
I also
interesting
think
process
they've
behind it.
gone down an interesting same process that Mercedes have on the color, which makes me think that the night race in particular, don't be surprised if
They've
you're,
got specials.
driving along, mind your own business, and
You
oh my
plow at the
days,
back
what
of
the
the
hell
Audi.
did it pass me because this Audi or Mercedes has just streaked past me out of seemingly nowhere because you didn't spot it in the mirrors because it was just so kind of camouflaged into the night.
It will hide well in dark backgrounds, which I don't know how well that will go for TV cameras. But like I said at the top, we've got new cameras coming. Thiemo, possibly one of our
Night vision will just be the pure heat. He was like, there is a car there. We just
yeah,
can't see it.
tell by like the exhaust tip and brake rotors.
Mm.
Thiemo, this is possibly one of our biggest disagreements. You've gone for
Alpine, I just really like the evolution of that livery. And, everything's just more accelerated and evolved. It's more blue, it's more pink, and it works. It's not overdone it. And I suspect, and I'm happy to be wrong, but I suspect I'm not going to be talking about Alpine too much this year in positive ways if they continue as they have been over the last more than 100 races, let's say. And I want to have something nice to say about them. And this is my easy early win, and it helps that I'm not lying because I genuinely do quite like the combo from it. They've spent so many years, a little bit like Aston Martin, mixing around with the blue and the pink, and then just going full pink for some of it, full blue for others. And they finally found a formula that worked last year. And they went, let's stick with it, and we'll just tighten up, fresh it a little bit, make it more matte, make it more bubblegum sort of vibes, and I think it works very nicely indeed. So the fact that you put it so far down the order is just, well, borderline criminal.
it's excitingly hubba bubba. But I, I like your approach to starting off the year how you left off the last of going, I like the livery with Alpine and having a very low bar for
It's an easy place for them to build from, and if they don't, at least I've got the foundation
yeah,
sorted.
we've already got that foundation laid down. Fun fact, obviously, this year's Alpine is called the A526. For those of you who listen to us not from the UK, we often use the initial A for road designations for major roads. The A526 runs between Newcastle under Lyme and Salford. Um, didn't know if you wanted to know that one, but it runs for 35.8 miles, mostly across sort of
I'm going to have to remember that
Lancashire.
because someone's going to be annoying about that with the pub quiz in the future, and that someone's going to be you.
It might be. I can't promise anything of the sort. Next year's car would likely be the A525. I should. Oh no, last year's car was the A525 by that measure, which ran from Newcastle under Lyme to Brill. Interesting enough, on the North Wales coast. Anyway, that's some pointless A52 road facts. We'll move on to the podium finishers when it comes to liveries. Third place, the guests have gone for in their mass.
There is no mass. I think there is a draw, which is Fraser and Henry have gone for Mercedes. Caitlin and Sabrina have put Aston Martin as highest, which shocking, I know. But Alessia does break that tie break because she also put Mercedes in third place. We've got a couple of Williams appearances, and we've got a bit of Cadillac and a bit of Haas in there as well. Um, but who have you gone for, and what on earth is your justification for this? Because we said we'd circle back around to it, we are, and this cannot purely be just because you need a mortgage.
Well, I like the blue. I think it's really nice. We've got this.
Which one? There's 7,000 types of blue on that car.
Yeah, I like them all.
What do you mean, yeah?
I like them
God's sake.
all. I think we've got, to my eye, which isn't saying much when it comes to colors, we've got at least 6 shades of blue that I can detect. One of those may be a purple. But it's a nice livery. I like it. I like what Williams seem to be up to this season. I think it's
And what is that?
not going broke by the amount of sponsors they've got scattered across the car for one. It's just really, there's a lot to it. I like the shape that it follows down the side pod. See, they've somehow made that.
Do you like the shape of the car, or do you like the colours of the car? Because
No,
it sounds more of a
I like
defense
the
of the
way that
design rather than the colours.
I like the way they've applied the colours to the shape of the car, the way that it follows sort of the underside of the side pod. I like the fact that we sort of have that cutout section with the Barclays branding on it above the Komatsu branding. We've sort of got that delineation between the blues. There's just it just looks like a good Formula One livery to me, and I can see it being repurposed in an interesting manner for special liveries later this season as well, with some additional splashes or dashes hither and thither. I don't
I
think we're
think I
going to
found
see.
the clip for the podcast episode because it's going to be you saying, I think that makes for a great livery for the season. And then end quote, Jesse Billington, brackets, colourblind.
Yeah, possibly that. But I can't see, unfortunately, any space where they could include having like Sonic the Hedgehog's like feet and operating pedals like they had on, I want to say, the 1994, 1995 Williams, when they were sponsored by Sega and Nintendo, and they had
Maybe there'd be a way to do that with the tyres, and you have him as the feet of the back tyres, and you have him kind of leaning forward slightly, and you have
powering the
part of the
engine.
foot going
Or better
rotating
still,
around.
one of Sonic's moves was he sort of like curled up into a ball and spun. You could have that as the livery on the wheel covers. A lot of the teams have got very interesting wheel covers, certainly by the renders released. Some have gone for this little sort of rim liner that just goes around the edge with an exposed central hub of the wheel. A lot of teams are using different wheels this season. Alpine have got the complete dog dish covering, so have Ferrari. Mercedes have gone for, again, the sort of lip rim to the sort of wheel, and a different
Easy for you to
alloy.
say.
Yeah, different alloy setup to the Williams. So there's some really interesting blends here, and I'll get on to the interesting blends of sort of wheel and wheel design certainly when we get to, I think it's my next livery actually on the list. But I just think the Williams is a really interesting style of design. I like the fact that we've retained the Duracell branding on the airbox
I
and the
do like that
battery look.
element.
It's there's just bits of it that work for me. I like, again, we've got the roulette wheel on the wheel trim as well, so obviously it spins. And again, I think that's clever, and the fact that it exists beyond the Vegas Grand Prix is fun.
I've gone for Audi in third place. We don't need to talk too much more about that. We already know why we like it so much, but it got a bit tricky for me at this point as we get to podium places. But just like the other two cars more. So Audi for me in third place.
Yeah, in fact, two of the other cars are another agree for us, interestingly. And
I'm not
do
the only one thinking it.
no, do the guests also agree?
Jacob has also put this team in second place.
Good man.
Sabrina has put this car in second place. Cheryl's put this car in second place. But we've got three Hasses there. We've got two Red Bulls, two Mercedes, and a Racing Bull from
So
Martin Ferrari.
I don't feel too alone then in some of my choices, although some of Martin's picks I haven't strongly agreed with. So I feel kind of split in the fact that he's now put one of my choices a bit further up. So you win some, lose some. The team in question is one that we share, and I've gone for, and as have you, Cadillac. And I think it's a really good livery. It's a great throwback.
I wasn't
To,
expecting this from them. It's sort of,
yeah,
I don't know what we were expecting. Maybe perhaps black. because of the race suits and what we'd seen there. So the
Yeah,
fact that they did it in this way, you go, "Ooh,
I
quite good
was
actually."
expecting black and is it green that they have on one of the CTS WEC IMSA cars? They have one that's
Yes,
blue, and I think that might be the Wayne Taylor car.
I
And then
think
they
that's what
have,
a lot of people were
yeah,
expecting, a similar
they
sort
have
of
the
trim there.
green. Yeah, I was expecting that. What I wasn't expecting was it Williams that had the half and no, it wasn't. It was who was it had the half and half livery in the 90s for two tobacco brands? It not Ligier, that wasn't Jordan, was it? I can't remember who it was. It was Jacques Villeneuve ended up with them. And
Goodman Williams.
F1 livery. It was BAR.
Nah, yes.
That was it. And they had Lucky Strike on one side and Triple Five on the other, and it sort of had the zip that went down the side because they were going to try and have one car that was Triple Five, one car that was Lucky Strike, and Formula One went, no, both cars have to look fundamentally the same. So they said, all right, jam them together, and great car. That was 1999 with the BAR 01, and yeah, kind of fun. I liked it, and I think it's interesting that we've sort of got a similar process come back with Cadillac this year, and it's applied well. I think it looks really good.
Works.
Yeah, it it's a good looking car.
It's. I think this is the interesting thing with a lot of these liveries is that take Alpine for example. I am not having high expectations for the team. I'm not the biggest Alpine fan when it comes to the drivers and the team principal, but I find the car very nice to look at. In the same way that this time last year, very excited for Cadillac to come in. 12 months later, I'm more excited about Audi taking over Sauber, which was not something I thought was on my bingo card. But now they've released this car that looks very, very nice as well. So I'm just torn all over the place on several fronts by going, I don't know if I want the team to do well because I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of them yet. But the car is also very good looking, and I'd like to see more of that. And you tend to see more of it when it's near the sharp end than when it's getting in the mix with things. So they've played a very nice job there of trying to convert neutrals into fans because you go, we've got something nice for you to look at, and wouldn't this look good on a phone wallpaper or a t-shirt or whatever?
I'm trying to have a closer look at some pictures because Cadillac have done something that HP should do. So on the dark side of the car, you have on set high on the engine cover the Cadillac crest. On the dark side, they've used a monochrome version of it, and on the white side, it appears they might have used the color version of it, and it's got some little gold bars just tucked into it. And I think it blends so nicely. And yeah, I'm excited to see how it looks sort of properly on track with both cars there. It's just
Quite good.
yeah, it's a nice looking car. And again, the white on the sort of nose really works to shorten the look of it as well, actually. I don't know if it's again the images they've used, it's sort of sat on this sort of lunar landscape because obviously when they launched it, it was alongside
Very moon
audio.
landing-esque.
Yeah, John F. Kennedy's 1962. We choose to go to the moon not because it is easy, but because it is hard. That is the best John F. Kennedy impression I can do. But it's a good looking livery. I like the sponsors we've got attached to it, a little limited, but again, we're backed by TWG AI, and obviously the might of General Motors as well have obviously poured a huge amount of money into this. And yeah, we've got the Cadillac script just sort of between the cockpit and the front wheel. It looks good. And I will say I like the white rim lip sort of wheel trims that look really quite fun.
Mm.
They sort of almost white wallish in one aspect, and also at the same time they're a bit like the chrome trims that I have on my MG as well, in that sort of lighter aspect to the wheel. I quite like that on a personal note.
Other people have put it a bit higher up, but as we get to first place, I will read out what we have from everyone, and we will see what happens here because we both have one person agreeing with our choices, but everyone else disagrees. Mm.
So who
Alessia has gone for Red Bull. Caitlin from Paddock Chronicle, drinking the same stuff you are, racing bulls. Put that there. Spoilers. Jesse will justify this in a moment.
yeah, correct please.
Tiara's gone for Cadillac. Fraser Ford makes you look good here. So he's put Aston Martin first. Don't know what he's on. I've yet to receive a reply to that question. Um, Henry has chat, unsurprisingly, has put Haas in first. Jacob's put Audi, Jenny's put Cadillac, Caitlin's put Williams, Martin's put Red Bull, Sabrina's put Audi, and Cheryl's put Red Bull. So the predominant winner there, I think, is Red Bull and Cadillac, just by a whisker. But as I've already spoiled it for you, can now justify Racing Bulls in first. What on earth?
I think this is a really fun livery. They had some great special liveries over the past few years, Racing Bulls, and obviously whoever's working away in their design department is really putting in the hard graft. And I like this one. It's a bit like
It's a copy and paste from last year. What do you want about?
no, it's
They've put in the
different.
hard graft.
It's different. The back end to it is completely new, and it's it borrows a bit from last year. I'm not saying it
A
doesn't.
bit.
However, much like the Red Bull, which has gone back with this very noughties nostalgia look, the sort of design language used on this one is a little bit 1990s and it's very blocky. You can imagine it wearing bootcut jeans. It's quite fun. And I like
You
the
can't imagine that because it's a car.
okay, ignoring that. I also like the wheels and the wheel design to this. I don't know I haven't seen if they're using this actually in practice, but certainly on the renders, we've got this sort of flat white, almost looks like sort of a polystyrene or sort of like if you buy a cake at a supermarket and it comes under that sort of plastic, sort of see-through case, it looks like if you've taken the top section of that, painted it white, and put that inside it, and then added the black lip ring to the edge of it. It looks really cool. And it's
Proof if
really
proof
dipped
were
on a rear
needed that
wheel.
you should not be in charge of liveries for any cars ever.
It'd be made it,
You
the
know when you go and buy a cake? No, that's not how we're doing this.
I'll admit that's not the strongest way to have started that design meeting. However, I think it's a really good looking design. It's a bit busy in places, but I quite like that, the frenetic look to it. It's a busy, energetic team that's
It's
supposed to
worthy of
be.
seventh place, I'll give you that.
I think it's worthy of first.
Madness. Madness, especially when you've got my choice right there, which is the obvious candidate, which is Haas. Ignore the little black box because it worked, it tricked you, and you talked about it, and so it's eye-catching
I
by
don't
definition.
disagree with you.
And it's such a, it was already good looking in the photos, and then you see it moving in real life, and it's just even more gorgeous. It looks like Haas has evolved into Haas. It looks like the culmination of this first very long and very wacky era that it's had to get here. This is what going to be its 10th season this year in the sport.
No,
Um,
last year was his 10th.
yeah. Well, good way to start the next 10 years then. It still works narratively. I've still got this. And, the giant hat on the side, the GR for Toyota Gazoo Racing works very nicely. The colours are simple but deep and pop. And again, I like Behrman. I don't mind Ocon. Feel like I want them to both do much better this year than they potentially have been in recent years and keep building on the performance that they've had since 24 and be further up that grid because that is one good looking car and it deserves to be seen much more regularly in the top 10 and hopefully on the podium at least once this year. Mexico would be the perfect place for it. I'll take it sooner, but I'd like them to win the Mexican Grand Prix because then the car gets to go on the podium and that's where it deserves to be.
Yeah, I think Ollie Behrman's got unfinished business with the Mexican Grand Prix as well, having put in a stonker of a performance there. And the worst part
How
is,
funny would that be? Early prediction: Oliver Behrman beats Sergio Perez for the
I don't
Mexican
think
Grand
I've got
Prix win.
I don't know if I've got that spreadsheet set up yet. Hang on, bear with
That's
me.
all right. No,
Bear,
don't need to do that right this moment.
bear with me. Aha, aha, I do. I have the 2026 race by race predictions. You want Mexico. Wait, this still says, hang on, let me go into here and change this. Win, you would like Ollie
Ollie Behrman
Behrman.
to beat Sergio Perez.
You would like Sergio Perez in second. Is that
Yes, I think that would be the ultimate funnies.
uh, Perez into the red as well? There we go. That's baked in. I'll make sure that when I strip that out, I leave those two in there. Thank you very much for your observations. Yeah, I think it's a good livery. I can't disagree with you. I think it's a good looking livery. I just
Yet you're about to try and disagree with me
I just prefer the
because
RB.
you placed it so much lower down.
It's not that much lower down. It's seventh. Okay, it's a little bit further lower down.
It's where I put yours.
Look, we could bicker about this until the cows come home or until the green lights go out in Australia. if you've got different thoughts to us or some of the guests who've obviously chimed in for this episode, let us know in the comments. I think you can comment on Spotify these days. You can certainly comment on YouTube. Let us know which is your favorite liveries, which of our liveries have we got completely wrong, and which is your least favorite livery. Would you have done it better? What would you have done differently? Does the little black box on the back of the Haas really annoy you? Let us know. It's worth chiming in. We'll maybe read them out on the next episode. Otherwise, that's all we've got time for. Otherwise, we'll be talking about shapes and colours for nearly an hour. We'll be back soon to preview the 2026 Formula One season. Obviously, testing is underway. We're not going to read into that too much, but we do have predictions to make, and we do have a lot of people to try and wrangle into making predictions themselves. So we're sure they will all age like fine wine. I'm going to try and find some more sort of slightly out there ones like I did for 2025, because when we
I think
did...
this is the year to do it.
Yeah, well,
We
2025...
can we can afford to be bold, look back and be silly because we have genuinely no idea what's going to happen, and we mean
Yeah,
it this time.
2025, I asked people to predict when Max Verstappen's baby was going to be born, and I got the points for that one because I was the closest.
I more meant genuinely to do with the racing because it's new regulations, but sure, your
That
thing
too.
too.
We're in completely unknown waters, so there's a lot to look forward to. Until then, if people want more from you, Thiemo, where can you be found?
This week you can find me over on the Paddock Chronicle where I've got an article out looking back at the women in motorsport who impressed in January across the board. You've obviously got a lot of Dakar appearances, but there are some people in there aside from Dakar competitors. And I have an episode of On the Curbs out at the moment with Cuban driver Isabella Abreu, who is the first Cuban this year to race in French Formula 4. First Cuban racer in single seaters ever, quite frankly. So she's going to be making history regardless.
Yeah, very interesting. Obviously, we're talking sort of women doing interesting things in motorsports. It's probably worth talking at some point in the future about the fact that Formula One Academy has yet again failed to get someone into single seaters, with Dorian Pain heading off to do European Le Mans series.
LMP3.
Yeah, ironically enough, taking a step down from where she had previously been racing before she joined F1 Academy. So there's certainly a talking point to be had there. Not to disparage female racing drivers, I think just the series has proven time and time again that unless it actually gets someone into F3, it's moot. Anyway, that's something to talk about at a later point in time. If you want more from me, of course, you can pick up the latest issue of Classic Car Weekly out in all good supermarkets and some terrible ones, as well as newsagents. And of course, you can get it digitally and listen to the Classic Car Weekly podcast. We'll be recording a new episode of that tomorrow as well. Equally, on top of that, you can just find me on social media at Jesse on Cars, doing all sorts of silly things with cars of all ages. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and we will see you again soon to lay down some predictions for this new era of Formula One.